Good morning, everyone. The time is 9:31 and today is Thursday, June 27th, 2024, and we are at the Alameda County Lead Poisoning Prevention Program. If you are watching this on video or at home, do not be confused by reading on the screen that this is a future agenda item request from our council meeting last week. We are overcoming a little technical difficulty. I would like to note that this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format, and members of the public who wish to participate have the right to do so via remote teleconference participation. And the web link for this meeting is provided on the front of today's agenda. I'll begin by asking if the clerk would please take the roll for this meeting.
Director Hardy? Director Miley? Director Vella? Director Wenrath? Director Wenrath?
Present.
Director Gallo?
Present.
Director Bowders?
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ladise. Now is the time for public comment for non-agenda matters. Members of the public, directors, alternate staff, or others who wish to give comment for an item not on the agenda but in the subject matter jurisdiction of this agency have the right to do so for 2 minutes today. Do we have anybody online wishing to give comment?
No comment.
Comment is now closed. We'll turn to item 3, which is the consent calendar. It's the meeting minutes from May 23rd, 2024. Is there any public comment on the minutes?
No public comment.
Comment is closed. Is there discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Move approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion by Gallo, second by Wengraff to approve item 3. Please call, please call the roll.
Director Hardy?
This is a yes or no on the minutes, but you know what, we're happy you're still here. Always happy about that.
So is that an aye?
Would you like to vote yes or no on the minutes, Ms. Hardy? Yes, thank you. We have a yes.
Okay, Hardy, aye. Director Miley? Director Vella? Director Wenrath?
Yes.
Wenrath, aye. Director Gallo?
Aye.
Gallo, aye. Director Bowders?
Aye.
Bowders, aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. The motion carries and the minutes have been approved. Item 4 is the director's report. Director Brooks, good morning, sir.
Good morning, directors. Thank you very much. Just a couple of items to cover with you today. I think we got a couple of slides to go with it, and you have printed out copies of the PowerPoint slide presentation, which may be necessary because there are some things there in those slides that you may want to read about. Let me greet you first, though, by this first slide. Happy Pride Month. We always try to recognize Pride Month, and I usually put up a flag to start off the JPA meetings in June to recognize Pride Month. And this flag is a little bit different than the one from last year because there's been some other additions within the category of Pride Month. So I wanted to introduce those who haven't seen this particular version of the flag so that they can look it up on Wikipedia because there's a good extensive explanation of what all those colors and symbols mean. With that, let me move on into the actual report itself. Like I said, there's a lot of text in this one, so I'm glad you have a printed out copy. But if I can just summarize what this whole article is about, which was written by Tom Neltner. Tom Neltner worked for many years for the Environmental Defense Fund as an attorney and a scientist, and then he retired and recently started up his own nonprofit, Unleaded Kids, I should say. And this article is about his own recent experience with some unsafe work practices that were done at his own home. Even though it was actually done by a contractor who had gone through the EPA lead safe work practices training. It was at his neighbor's house that the work was being done, and because it was being done improperly, it actually caused lead dust contamination at his home and in his vegetable garden. And so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention in regards to the need for us to be vigilant in terms of not only making sure that contractors and painters go through the EPA lead safe work practices training, but that we have people out there monitoring those folks, because most of the time when you think about unsafe work practices, you're thinking about, what we call Chuck with a truck or Fran with a van, the little one-person operations that are going through neighborhoods and painting houses, and they've never gone through any lead safe work practices training. But the reality is that there are a lot of firms out there that, big firms that have not gone through the training, and then there are those that have gone through the training and still choose to do it improperly because they can save money that way. If you don't do everything by the book, then you end up not spending as much money as you should in order to protect your workers as well as protect your customers and their neighbors. So this actually took place in Baltimore, well, Maryland, outside of Baltimore. And I know that Director Gallo, a few years back, along with Council Member Desley Brooks, had actually asked for Oakland to model Baltimore in terms of their proactive approach to lead poisoning prevention, where they required all units to be inspected when they turn over and that they be lead tested. And so this is a place where you just wouldn't think this would happen because Maryland and Baltimore are considered like at the top of their game in terms of lead poisoning prevention. And yet it did happen. And so here in California, it's a warning to us that we still need to work on ways to make sure that our painters and contractors go through the one-day training. As you know, Senator Archuleta passed a law 2 years ago that eventually will lead to California doing their own RP training and enforcement. But unfortunately, California Department of Public Health has said that they will not be taking it over for at least 2 to 4 years because they're waiting on their Department of Technology to build them a database to be able to track contractors and painters to make sure that they get certified and that they get recertified every 5 years. So in preparation for that, the Department of Public Health is already put in a budget request, which I believe has been approved, for them to hire 31 enforcement staff of their own over the next couple of years. They'll be building up their program. And then the hope is that once they build up their program and the state of California takes over RP enforcement, that they will then trickle down money to local governments so that we too can be vigilant in terms of making sure people do lead paint disturbing work in a proper way. Next slide, my only other slide, which again has a lot of text in it, and so don't want you to read it. Just basically the short of it is I was honored to work with a group of folks on putting together this document on how corporate landlords are benefiting from buying up rental properties but not maintaining them, thus creating health hazards for their occupants. So working with Human Impact Partners, we put together this document that points out some things like the fact that according to the U.S. Census Bureau Rental Housing Finance Survey, approximately 45% of rental housing units are owned by what are, quote, called institutional investors. This category includes landlords utilizing corporate structures like LLPs, LPs, and LLCs, and real estate investment trusts and real estate corporations to buy up rental properties. And because they're buying up properties in such huge numbers, it's actually taking away our ability as Healthy Homes folks to keep up with who owns properties. This is affecting code enforcement and building inspection as well. When all the mom and pop landlords are starting to throw in the towel and sell their properties to corporate landlords, oftentimes those corporate landlords do not live here in our communities. And so when we run into health and housing conditions, we have challenges trying to locate who the person is that's to be held responsible. So just wanted to acknowledge Human Impact Partners for the work they've done in putting together this document that makes some recommendations for how we can improve the health of occupants in those units owned by corporate landlords. And we also were participated in their webinar that introduced this document. There was over 250 attendees at that webinar that was given a week ago. That's it for the director's report. Any questions?
Are there any questions on the director's report from members of the board? Do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay. Does that conclude the director's report?
That's it.
Thank you. It's a brief one, but I appreciate it. All right.
I do
You have a
have
question,
one.
Director Gallo?
Yeah. In the interest of time, Director Brooks, can you share with us and the public in terms of where are we with the investment or the funds that were generated from suing the paint company? Where are we today? Not only in terms of the cities that were, like Oakland, were granted or allocated certain funds, but then also the county has a certain amount of money that some could be used in Oakland or throughout the county.
That's correct. The lead paint settlement funds totaled $24 million.
Okay.
2 years ago, under the court order, we had to negotiate a spending agreement with the city of Oakland.
Okay.
After meeting with them for a couple of years, we did reach a partial agreement in which $4.7 million was given to the city of Oakland to, among other things, hire a consultant to help them to develop a spending plan for the other $9 million that the county is holding on to. They also were to use the part of that $4.7 million to begin to implement a proactive rental inspection program. At this point in time, I can only tell you in my most recent conversations with Caleb Smith for the city of Oakland is that they are in the process of hiring a consultant who is supposed to help them develop a spending plan and perhaps, I guess, provide them with some advice on a proactive rental inspection program. That consultant also will have responsibility for, in effect, doing an audit of our Healthy Homes Department to determine if we have been spending money in a proper way in regards to providing child lead poisoning prevention services to Oakland.
Does the county have a responsibility or a legal role to oversee the city's implementation of those funds?
Our legal responsibility would be under the court order to agree upon a spending plan for the $9 million that we're holding on to for Oakland. Now, we were able to negotiate with Oakland $9 million to be used by the county for services throughout the county, unincorporated and incorporated cities, but not in Oakland. So right now you have this split where some money is being spent on lead poisoning prevention services, enhanced services, we call it. We actually call it Lead Safe Alameda County with parentheses excluding Oakland, because we know Oakland has the $4.7 million, which to my knowledge has not been spent. Yeah. And then they have $9 million that we're holding on to until we can see what their spending plan is, at which time then it would eventually be presented to Oakland City Council and to the Board of Supervisors to reach agreement on. So that $9 million that we're holding on to has to be spent in Oakland, but it's just a matter of what is the spending plan, how will it be spent in Oakland?
So the reason I ask, we're going through a budget deficit situation, and I want to make sure that that money that was allocated for the service is used for that particular neighborhood service and not to balance the budget. And but so right now the city does not work in unison with you
Yes.
to accomplish the goals that we have established from this project.
Yes, Oakland has, only obligation is to come to us with a spending proposal for the $9 million that has still been set aside for Oakland. As far as what they're doing with the $4.7 million.
You're not part of that.
Not a part of that. We just know under the court order, they have to spend that money on lead poisoning prevention. I should add that there's a $500,000 that also was given to Oakland back in 2011 when one of the paint companies settled out of court before the 2019 settlement was reached. There was a company called Millennium Paints, which kind of saw the writing on the wall, and they settled out of court. And so Oakland received a $500,000 back in 2011, and I cannot account for how that is being spent either. They have no obligation to tell.
But right now, you would have record of the money that's being spent in Berkeley and Emeraldville and other cities in the county?
Yes, under Lead Safe Alameda County, we do have documentation of the services that we are providing. But yeah, I have no idea what Oakland is doing.
Okay, thank you for that information. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? We'll move to agenda item 5, which is the monthly report.
Okay, I just want to let you know that the information provided is representing May activities. So as you can see, we're, continuing to do provider outreach. We did the West Oakland Health Center, and we also did the Kaiser Permanente in Fremont, Castro Valley Pediatrics, and Hayward Wellness Center. Thus far, for the direct outreach, our goal, we've surpassed our goal. We were supposed to do 5,000 direct outreach. This includes presentations, people that we've reached through presentations, information booths, trainings, consultations, lead-related consultations, and we're at 113%. The broad outreach, our goal was to reach 1 million individuals, and I don't have the specific details. However, our activities under that goal was to conduct multimedia outreach campaigns, which includes TV, radio, social media, and print. In regards to the assessments, interventions, we're at 80% as of May. We still have one more month, June, to report back, and we're definitely working towards that.
Thank you. Are there any public comments for item 5?
No public comment.
Are there any directors who wish to ask questions on item 5? Close item 5. We'll go to item 6, which is future agenda matters. Are there any members who have a future agenda request? We have a couple sitting out on the agenda for the November timeline, but are there any intervening items? Seeing none. Announcements by members of the board. Are there any announcements today? Could you put the first slide back up? Yes, please. Thank you. I'm going to make a brief announcement, which is only maybe to this room in the end, but just also educating, I think. So first of all, I wish everybody happy Juneteenth, albeit belated. I appreciate and welcome June in particular because I feel like it's an important month. It offers us the opportunity to celebrate a lot of different people and to me, June is a month that reflects overcoming things. And so the federal recognition of Juneteenth is really important. And the sad part is that the story isn't even told correctly at Juneteenth. People believe that Union soldiers went to liberate people in Galveston, Texas that day. But the reality is that people in Texas already knew about the Emancipation Proclamation. They just waited till someone forced their hand to really end monetizing the work of other people. And it's actually not even true that Galveston, Texas is the last place where people were enslaved. Delaware and Kentucky actually still had slaves until December of that same year. So Americans have a really interesting way of recording history and memorizing and memorializing it. We don't really tell all the details in this story. And so I just want to recognize Juneteenth and in particular recognize the true history and the fact that even when we celebrate the end of slavery, it wasn't even then over, and it isn't over today. And then I wanted to ask to put the pride flag back up because I think we look at this and it hangs on flagpoles. This is the progress flag. I just want to take a minute to actually tell people what it means because I think it's one of those things that we just see and it looks nice. But the original colors of the pride flag are on the right, and red in the pride flag stands for life, something that all people are entitled to. Orange is for healing, which is something that people in the LGBT community have to go through quite a bit. Yellow is for sunshine, the idea that people shouldn't stay in a closet, you should come out into the daylight and be who you are. Green is nature, which is that who you are is natural and that you shouldn't be ashamed of that. Blue is harmony, the idea that everybody should live together, and purple is spirit, that we aren't anybody if we don't have something that is behind us or within us that makes us part of something bigger than ourselves. And I really appreciate the additions that were made recently by the community. The transgender colors, pink is for people who are female gender identifying, blue is for people who are male gender identifying. And when you see a transgender flag, you'll see white in between it, and white is for people who are actually transitioning or they're non-binary and they don't identify as either female or male. The brown and black is to represent the fact that the LGBT community, like many other communities, has had a long history of being racially exclusive. And the progress flag is intended to show that with the chevron, the arrows coming into it, that progress into the LGBT community is being led by brown and black voices. In particular, black is also the symbol of those lost to AIDS. And then the triangle on the far left that's yellow and purple in that contrast, that's intersex, which is something that most people don't even know. There's actually an entire community of people who are born with either both sets of gender chromosomes or neither of them. And they're actually one of the most hidden, they're not a large percentage of the population, but one of the most hidden parts of the gender spectrum. And so I just wanted to thank you for putting it on the screen today and giving me the chance to speak to it. That's my announcement. The time is 9:53. We're adjourned.
Right. Thank you, Director. I found that fascinating to read about what the